Welcome back to Sacred Arc, a podcast about life, loss, and the soul in between. I'm Kimberly, intuitive grief guide, death doula, licensed esthetician, and whether I wanted to be or not, a lifelong student of grief. And today I wanted to share something honestly here. When I started recording this podcast, I didn't know who would listen. I didn't have a number in mind. I didn't have a goal. I just knew I had to record it. I knew there were people walking around carrying grief with no language for it. People whose pain had never been named out loud. People who felt like they were doing it wrong because their grief didn't look tidy or inspirational. And I knew that if I didn't speak, I'd be part of the silence that made that feel even lonelier. This podcast wasn't created to teach anyone how to grieve. It was created to witness it. To say this exists too. The messy parts, the in-between, parts that don't resolve, the parts that don't make sense yet. So when I see people listening in different places, at different ages, in different stages of their lives, it feels less like an audience and more like recognition. Like a quiet nod that says, yes, this is what it feels like. And that means more to me than I can put into words. But before we get into anything else, I want to start here. One of the things that has honestly humbled me the most since starting this podcast is realizing how far these conversations are traveling. There are people listening from the United States, from Denmark, the United Kingdom, Australia, Malaysia, South Africa, and other places I probably haven't even seen yet. That means that there are people all over the world in different time zones, different lives, different cultures, who are still meeting grief in their own way and choosing to sit with it here. That matters to me more than I could ever say. So wherever you are listening from today, thank you, truly. Another thing that surprised me in the best way is seeing who is listening. There are listeners across every age range. People in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, which makes complete sense because grief accumulates as we live. But what really stopped me in my tracks was seeing how many younger listeners are here too. Teenagers, young adults, people who are still figuring out who they are or who they thought they were going to be. And I want to say this clearly. Seeing you here doesn't worry me. It doesn't alarm me. It honors me. Because it tells me something very important, that grief doesn't wait for a certain age, and neither does the need to understand it. So if you're listening and you're younger, under 18, in your early 20s, or just early in life, this part is especially for you. And if you're older and listening too, stay. There's nothing here that doesn't belong to you as well. If you're young and grieving, I want you to know this first. You are not too young to feel this deep. You are not dramatic. You are not weak. You are not weird. You are not thinking too much. Grief doesn't check your birth year before it arrives. And a lot of young people are quietly taught, sometimes without anyone meaning to, that grief is something that you should handle privately, move through quickly, or come back to later. You might hear things like, you're so strong for your age, or you'll understand this better when you're older. Or at least you have your whole life ahead of you. And while those words are usually meant to comfort, they can make you feel incredibly alone because what you're feeling is happening now. Grief in younger bodies and minds often looks different than what people might expect. It might look like anger that comes out of nowhere, feeling numb and then suddenly feeling overwhelmed, laughing at moments that feel inappropriate, pulling away from people, or not having words at all. You might feel okay one minute and completely undone the next. That doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your nervous system is learning how to carry something big without a lot of guidance, and that is hard. You don't need to have the right language or to know who you are yet. You don't need to be strong for everyone else or make sense of this on anyone else's timeline. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grieve things other people don't understand. And if the adults in your life don't always know how to sit with your grief, That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It usually means that they weren't taught either. And I want to say one more important thing, especially for my younger listeners. If at any point what you're carrying feels too heavy to hold alone, or if you're feeling unsafe, overwhelmed, or stuck inside your own thoughts, please talk to someone in your real life. A trusted adult, a parent, a teacher, a school counselor, or a mental health professional. Reaching out isn't a failure, it's a skill, and you deserve support while you're learning how to carry this. If it feels okay, let's pause here for a moment. Take one slow breath in through your nose and let it out slowly through your mouth. Nothing needs to be fixed right now. You don't need answers today. You're allowed to just exist with what you feel. And if you're listening today and you feel called to share your story, a reflection, or even just a hello, you're welcome to reach out. You don't need to know what to say. You don't need to explain everything. Sometimes just being witnessed matters. You can find me through the links in the show notes, and if your message is quiet, messy, or unfinished, that's okay too. So if you've ever felt like your grief didn't have a place, it has one here. You are not behind. You're not broken. And you're not alone in this. Thank you for being here. This space exists because you do. This has been Sacred Arc. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll meet you again in the space between.